Unit 4. Food making and growth in plants. There are many objectives in this section. Let's begin. We will describe the structure and function of leaves. We'll describe the process of photosynthesis and the chemical reactions that take place in day and night that allow plants to make carbohydrates. We will list the storage organs in plants. We will explain why photosynthesis is important in agriculture. We will explain how photosynthesis takes place underwater and why people need to make use of this. We will explain how photosynthesis helps to balance the concentrations of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. We will explain how deforestation may lead to carbon dioxide buildup in the atmosphere and eventually lead to global warming. We will explain the uptake of water and mineral salts in the roots. We will explain the transport of water and organic materials in the stem. We will describe transpiration, the factors affecting it, and the implications for agriculture. We will explain the process of germination in different types of plants. We will list some plant hormones and their functions. We will outline how auxins work. We will explain how sunlight influences plant growth. We will explain the effect of removing apical dominance in plants. We will explain tropism and look at the different types. Unit 4. Food making and growth in plants. The leaf. Here are the objectives for this section. We will describe the internal structure of a leaf, and we will look at the function of a leaf. Here is a diagram to show the 4 main organs of a flowering plant: the flower, the leaf, the stem, and the root. Let's look at the functions of the 4 organs. The flowers hold the plant's sex organs, and this is where reproduction takes place. The leaves use light energy, carbon dioxide, and water to make food by photosynthesis. The stem provides support and a transport system for the water and minerals that go from the leaves to the flowers. It also transports food from the leaves to the roots. The stem provides support, as well as a transport system for water and minerals to get to the leaves and the flowers. It also transports food from the leaves to the roots and the flowers. The roots act as an anchor for the plant, holding it to the ground. Roots also absorb all the water and minerals the plant needs. Photosynthesis takes place in the leaves. They are adapted to ensure that the maximum amount of sunlight is absorbed. Carbohydrates are made, used, and stored by the plant. In the presence of sunlight, plants take in inorganic carbon dioxide and inorganic water. They use this to produce organic glucose and inorganic oxygen. This process is called photosynthesis. Plants use the energy from the sun to make the food that gives them energy for growth. The process takes place in organelles called chloroplasts. Oxygen is the byproduct of the process. It is used by humans and other animals for respiration. Photosynthesis supports all life on Earth. Here is the structure of a typical plant leaf. The leaf is flat and wide. This creates a large surface area for the collection of light. The leaf is also thin, so that gases have a short distance to move in and out of the leaf. Leaves also have veins. The veins of a leaf function similarly to the veins in a human. Our veins transport blood throughout the body's tissues. The leaf's veins transfer water to the cells. Outlined here is the cross-section of a leaf. It is a side view. This is the top, and this is the bottom. Let's take a closer look at all of the adaptations. Seen here is the top layer. This is the waxy cuticle. It prevents water loss. Seen here is the epidermis. It is the main boundary between the plant and the environment. Here is the lower epidermis. It has many small openings called stomata. This is where gases are able to move in and out of the plant. Guard cells sit on either side of the stomata. They open and close to control this process. Seen here is the palisade layer. This is where most of the photosynthesis takes place. It has the highest concentration of chloroplasts. They spread out around the cells where there is lots of light. When it becomes dark, they move to the top. This section is the spongy mesophyll. It has fewer cells than chloroplasts, but has lots of air spaces so that gases can move around. Carbon dioxide and oxygen can be exchanged in these places. Stems are known as vascular bundles. These can be larger in different plants and smaller in others. Here is a cross-section of a celery stalk. It contains both xylem tubules and phloem tubules. The xylem is dead tissue that brings water from the soil. The phloem is living tissue, which carries solid material from the leaves. Chloroplasts exist in plants, but also exist in algae. These green stacks can be seen clearly under the microscope. Inside of the chloroplasts is chlorophyll. Inside of the chloroplast is the pigment called chlorophyll. This is what gives the green color. Chloroplasts contain the green pigment called chlorophyll. The more chloroplasts, the more photosynthesis that can take place. So let's summarize. The internal structure of leaves are adapted so that photosynthesis can take place efficiently. Leaves have a number of different tissues. These include the waxy cuticle, the epidermis, the palisade mesophyll, the spongy mesophyll, the vascular bundles, the stomata, and the guard cells. Each section has its own function. This is to promote the health of the plant and to facilitate the process of photosynthesis. Each tissue has different functions. Each tissue has its own function. These promote the health of the plant and facilitate the process of photosynthesis.
Functions of leaves. They carry out photosynthesis. They control the diffusion of oxygen and carbon dioxide. They promote internal transportation of water and minerals by transpiration. Choline leaves. Leaves developed on the stem. Example, cocos. Ramal leaves. Leaves developed on the branches. Radical leaves. Leaves developed on the roots. Example, allium. Parts of a leaf. The structure of the leaf shows 4 parts, namely 1. Leaf base, 2. Stipule, 3. Petiole, and 4. Lamina. Leaf base. The basal part of the leaf is called leaf base. The leaves are attached to the stem at the node by means of leaf base. Stipule. The small green lateral appendages present on either side of the leaf base are called stipules. They are prominent in dicots and rarely found in monocots. They protect the axillary buds in developing stages. Stipulate. Leaves with stipules. Exstipulate. Leaves without stipules. Deciduous stipule. Stipules fall off by the time lamina expands.
Example, Micaelia.
Persistent stipule. Stipules remain as long as the leaf remains. Example, Pisum, Lathyrus. Branched stipules. In Epomia quamaclate, branched stipules are present. Petiole. The stalk of the leaf is called petiole. It connects the lamina to the stem. It exposes the lamina to light. It allows the leaf lamina to flutter in wind, thereby cooling the leaf and bringing fresh air to surface. It bears the weight of the lamina and conducts water and food materials between the stem and leaf. Petiolate. Leaves with petiole. Sessile. Leaves without petiole. Lamina. The green expanded part of the leaf is called lamina or the leaf blade. All the important functions of the leaf are performed in this part only. The central prominent vein present in the leaf lamina is called midvein or midrib. The branches developed from the midvein are called lateral veinlets.
Unit 4. Food making and growth in plants. Photosynthesis. Here are the objectives for this section. We will describe the process of photosynthesis. We will describe the light and dark reactions that enable plants to convert carbon dioxide and water into carbohydrates. We will list the various food storage organs of plants. We will explain the importance of photosynthesis in agriculture. We will explain how photosynthesis can take place underwater. We will explain how photosynthesis helps to keep the balance of carbon dioxide and oxygen in the atmosphere. We will explain how deforestation can actually cause global warming. Plants are living organisms that make their own food. These types of organisms are called autotrophs. In biology, auto means self and troph means nourishing, so self-nourishing. Organisms that eat food from elsewhere are known as heterotrophs. Hetero means others, and troph means nourishing, so others nourishing. In order for autotrophs to carry out photosynthesis, light is required. This will take place in the green part of plants, specifically in the chloroplasts, where the chlorophyll pigments are. Chlorophyll captures light. This is where photosynthesis takes place. Here is a word equation to illustrate the process. Carbon dioxide and water react in the presence of chlorophyll and light. They produce glucose and oxygen as products. The glucose that plants produce is used for nourishment and energy. The oxygen produced by plants is not needed. Plants produce huge amounts of oxygen every year. But oxygen is vital to us, so photosynthesis is essential. Here is a symbol equation showing the same reaction, but this time showing exactly how many molecules of every element are involved. In order to produce 1 molecule of glucose, 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, and 6 molecules of water are needed. When the glucose is made, 6 molecules of oxygen is released. So what happens to all of the energy produced? Well, some of the glucose is used immediately for respiration and growth and other cell functions, and some of it is stored. Glucose and other sugar molecules are processed in plants. Glucose and other sugar molecules are processed in plants. They are used to build starch for storage, to transport other sugars throughout the plant, to make amino acids, to build lipids for cell membranes, and to create important large molecules such as chlorophyll. This requires the use of minerals from the soil. Some of the other sugars involved are, for example, fructose and sucrose. So we said, some of the glucose is used immediately and some is stored. This is because glucose is very soluble. It can dissolve quickly and easily in water. If allowed to dissolve in the plant, it can affect the balance of water in the plant and water concentrations. But starch is insoluble. It has no effect on water balance. It does not dissolve. It can also be stored easily because it's a complex molecule. It can also be stored easily because it's a compact molecule. And when it's required, it can be broken down into glucose again. The presence of starch indicates that photosynthesis has taken place. The iodine test is used to test for the presence of starch. See here in the diagram below. In this investigation, a leaf is removed from a plant. It is placed in hot water for a short period. This destroys the plant membranes. This destroys the cell membranes. It can then be soaked in boiling ethanol. The iodine test is used to test for the presence of starch. This diagram shows how the process is carried out. A leaf must first be removed from a plant. It is then placed in boiling water to destroy the cell membranes. It is then ready to be placed in warm ethanol. The ethanol extracts all of the color from the leaf. The clear ethanol solution turns bright green. The chlorophyll pigment is removed from the leaf, leaving it to look white. The leaf is then dipped in warm water to soften it, and normally placed on a white tile. Iodine solution is brown. We said that in the presence of starch it will change to a bluish-black color. We remove the green pigment so that the color change can be seen. It is evident that starch is present. This means that photosynthesis has taken place in the leaf. Is light always required for photosynthesis? The process of photosynthesis can be split into two parts. Part of the reaction requires light. The other part of the reaction requires light energy. The other part doesn't. In photosynthesis, light-dependent reactions are those which require light energy. The light-independent reactions are those that do not. In the first set of reactions, light is absorbed and water is taken in. Hydrogen and ATP is produced. ATP is the energy molecule, and hydrogen is used in all the other reactions. In the second process, carbon dioxide is converted to glucose. This process is light independent. This second process cannot take place without the products from the first, but it can continue to happen when no light is available. The simplest way of demonstrating the need of a plant for light is to deprive it of light and see what happens. We can keep the whole plant in darkness for 2 to 3 days. This is called destarching. We see that starch and chlorophyll is lost without light. We can also test that oxygen is produced. We can collect the oxygen-rich gas underwater as bubbles. Once the gas is captured, it can be held over a glowing splint. If the gas is oxygen, the splint will relight. Oxygen is a product of photosynthesis. Carbon dioxide is a reactant for the product. Carbon dioxide is a reactant for the reaction. Carbon dioxide is a reactant for the process. Here is a simple illustration. Potassium hydroxide can be used to remove carbon dioxide from the air. In this demonstration, plant A has no carbon dioxide. Plant B has normal levels of carbon dioxide. All of the other conditions are the same. When measured, we will see that plant A produces less starch than plant B. Some starch will be produced, but this is because of the CO2 that is being processed inside of the leaves. The greater the amount of carbon dioxide available is the more starch that is produced. And what about water? Plants need more than carbon dioxide in order to make carbohydrates. Plants need hydrogen too, and they are able to get this element from the water they absorb. Plants also need water for cellular reactions. Without water, the plant will die. Here is one way that we can evidence this. And what about chlorophyll? Chlorophyll is the green pigment inside of chloroplasts. It absorbs energy from the sun. Chlorophyll is needed for the process of photosynthesis. Here is a photograph of variegated leaves. Some sections do not contain chlorophyll, and others do. If we test variegated leaves with the iodine test, we will find that there is no starch in the white sections. This means chlorophyll is needed for photosynthesis. The test is simple. First, we can destarch the variegated plant, and then expose it to light for several hours. If photosynthesis begins to take place, then starch should be present. But the iodine test shows no starch is present. This proves that without chlorophyll, photosynthesis will not take place. So why is photosynthesis important? Photosynthesis is one of the most important reactions on the planet because it converts solar energy into chemical energy for living organisms to use. The products from photosynthesis can also be used as food. All of the important crops grown require photosynthesis in order to grow. Plants such as algae also undergo photosynthesis and can be found in an abundance in the ocean or other water bodies. Algae produces biomass rapidly, and it produces large amounts of oxygen. It also consumes large amounts of carbon dioxide. If we grow and harvest algae on a large scale, we could improve air pollution, we could create biofuel, and we could also create algae-based foods for humans. Many plants such as algae undergo photosynthesis, and they can be found in abundance in the ocean and other large water bodies. Algae undergo photosynthesis. Algae grow rapidly, producing lots of biomass. Algae produce large amounts of oxygen too, and they consume large amounts of carbon dioxide. If we grow and harvest algae, we could improve air pollution, we could create biofuel, and we could also create plant-based food. Almost all organisms require oxygen, and it is a waste product from the photosynthesis. All organisms require oxygen. Oxygen production is important. Almost all living organisms require oxygen for respiration. Oxygen is a waste product of photosynthesis. Plants use carbon dioxide and produce oxygen. Other organisms use oxygen and produce carbon dioxide. We need plants. They help us to maintain the right oxygen levels in the atmosphere and in water. How can photosynthesis help us to reduce greenhouse gases? Carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. It traps the heat from the sun around the surface of the earth. It is poisonous to humans, but useful to plants. Because plants help us to remove it from the atmosphere, they also maintain the oxygen-carbon dioxide balance. This is why deforestation is a problem. When we cut down trees, we reduce the amount of carbon dioxide that can be removed from the atmosphere. The process of deforestation isn't just the removal. The process of deforestation isn't just the removal of trees. It is the removal of the smaller plants around those trees also. In years previous, there was mass deforestation in Ethiopia. 14% of the country's forests were removed. Ethiopia has now taken on the responsibility of replanting these forests. So let's summarize. Photosynthesis is the process by which plants use carbon dioxide and water to produce glucose and oxygen. Chlorophyll can be found in plant cells. It is used to trap the light energy given from the sun in order to produce chemical energy. The process of photosynthesis. So let's summarize. Photosynthesis is the process by which plants use carbon dioxide and water in order to make glucose and oxygen. Chlorophyll is the chemical found in plant cells that absorbs sunlight from the energy. So let's summarize. Photosynthesis is the process by which carbon dioxide and water is used by plants to produce glucose and oxygen. Chlorophyll is the green pigment found in plant cells. It traps the light energy from the sun and converts it into chemical energy. The process of photosynthesis involves two main parts: light-independent reactions and light-dependent reactions. Light-dependent reactions require sunlight. Light-independent reactions do not. Glucose is a soluble molecule, and this means it will dissolve in water. So once it is made in photosynthesis, it is then stored as starch, which is insoluble. This glucose can be used to provide energy to the plant. The energy produced through respiration is used to convert small molecules into larger molecules. These include plant compounds such as cellulose, lipids, oils, and chlorophyll. The leaf organs on a plant are adapted for photosynthesis. The process of photosynthesis can be evidenced using tests. Photosynthesis provides a balance between our oxygen levels and carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere. Photosynthetic water-based organisms such as algae can be grown to produce oxygen and biomass. The cutting down of trees, known as deforestation, can lead to an increase in CO2 in the atmosphere and therefore contribute to global warming.